June 13, 2025. In the pre-dawn darkness, the status quo in the Middle East shattered. Operation Rising Lion launched Israel's most audacity military strike ever, targeting Iran's nuclear and missile infrastructure and eliminating senior leadership. Within hours, Iran struck back with a massive barrage, ballistic, drone, and even hypersonic Fatah 1 missiles that broke through Israel's layered defenses. From the skies of Tehran to the streets of Haifa, this tit-for-tat exchange reshapes geopolitics, rattles oil markets, and teeters the world on the brink. This is not just another headline, it's a pivotal moment in modern warfare. Early on June 13, nearly 200 stealth aircraft, including F-35I Adir jets, crossed into Iranian airspace under cover of electronic jamming. These aircraft targeted over 100 strategic points, Natanz and Fordo enrichment centers, Hondiab heavy water plants, missile storage bunkers near Kermanshah, Khorramabad, and Tabriz, plus oil and gas sites including South Pars and Tehran depots. But this airstrike was only half the operation. Simultaneously, Israel's Mossad executed sabotage missions inside Iran. Smuggled drones, UAS, and explosives struck radar sites and mobile missile launchers ahead of the bombings, crippling critical air defense coordination. The result, Israel achieved near-total air superiority over Tehran in the early morning storm. IDF sources reported 5 strikes waves, combining 330 munition dropped across nuclear and military industrial targets. Satellite imagery later confirmed Natanz transformer yard was destroyed, disabling its power grid. Fordo and Isfahan were heavily damaged. Missile silos lay in ruins. The objective: delay Iran's nuclear breakout, eliminate IRGC's missile threats, and decapitate military nerve centers. This operation targeted both infrastructure and individuals. Satellite images confirmed that the Natanz enrichment site was devastated, with key transformer hubs and backup destroyed, crippling its operational power grid. Also, the Fordo underground site sustained damages, while Isfahan plant suffered significant structural hits beyond nuclear installations. Several IRGC missile storage bunkers and hardened launch pads were reduced to rubble. In these strikes, high-ranking Iranian commanders were also eliminated. Among the claimed casualties were IRGC Chief Major General Hossein Salami, Armed Forces Chief Major General Mohammad Bagheri, and Air Force Commander Amir Ali Hajizada, nuclear scientist Mohammad Mehdi Tehranchi, and several others. The initial strike brought chaos to Tehran. Residential buildings shattered, fire and smoke clouded the sky, and the city reeled from repeated explosions. The Iranian authorities reported at least 224 dead and over 1,400 injured, a mix of military personnel and civilians caught in high-rise blast waves amid the capital's district. As reports emerged of critical damage at energy sites, particularly the South Pal oil gas terminal and Tehran depots, investors braced for global ripple effects. Inside Iran, a sudden wave of internal displacement broke out. Thousands fled Tehran, fearing further escalation. By evening of the same day, Iran responded with a massive counterstrike. Named Operation True Promise 3, Iran launched over 150 ballistic missiles, more than 100 drones, and multiple waves of advanced Fatah-class hypersonic missiles. Some were launched from Iraq and Syria under Iranian command. In Israel, air raid sirens wailed across areas from Haifa in the north to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Israel's layered defenses, Iron Dome, David slings, Arrow, alongside US Patriot and THAAD systems, intercepted most threats. Nevertheless, several hypersonic warheads breached defenses, striking Haifa's port, Tel Aviv buildings, Bat Yam, and Ramat Gan. The effect of these strikes were brutal. In Haifa, Israeli officials reported significant structural damage to the port and nearby oil refineries. Fires raged as salvage crews scrambled in darkness. In central Israel, at least 3 confirmed fatalities and over 20 injured, including serious injuries in Tel Aviv apartments, were attributed to direct hypersonic hits that fractured high-rise concrete. In Rishon LeZion, 2 civilians were killed, dozens injured in air raid shelters that failed to fully protect against hypersonic impact. From the Gulf to Europe, the conflict reverberated. Oil prices spiked 6 to 9% as shipping lanes and Gulf production facilities face potential disruption. Global stock markets swung as investors grappled with the possibility of a protracted Middle Eastern war. Several airlines rerouted flights from Tehran and Tel Aviv, and non-essential personnel withdrawals were announced by Western nations. Nuclear negotiations scheduled in Oman were abruptly suspended. Iran's foreign minister declared the diplomatic talks were off the table, accusing the US of backing Israeli aggression. Israel's prime minister reaffirmed that the operation would continue until the nuclear and missile threats were neutralized. Global leaders reacted. Germany, France, and the UK called for immediate ceasefire discussions. President Trump issued warnings that any attack on US interests would be met with overwhelming force, but denied US involvement in the Israeli strikes. The IAEA convened an emergency session. Nuclear inspectors reported no abnormal radiation but expressed urgent concern. Operation Rising Lion introduced a paradigm of 21st century warfare. Hybrid operations leveraging Mossad's infiltration and drone swarms with stealth airstrikes. Mossad's covert bases inside Iran executed precision drone strikes on missile launchers and air defense radars, effectively dismantling Iran's early warning systems before the air assault struck. Analysts around the world liken the strategy to historical ungentlemanly warfare, specialized asymmetrical tactics that disrupt dominant structures. By mid-June, experts estimated Iran's missile production and deployment had been degraded by up to 80% due to concentrated strikes on depots and SSM sites. Israel's strike campaign reportedly destroyed at least 30 missile launchers and critical weapons storage bunkers without triggering nuclear escalation. Faced with escalation, global powers scrambled. The UN Security Council held emergency sessions. France and Germany attempted shuttle diplomacy between Tehran and Jerusalem. The US warned Iran any attack endangering American interests would provoke unprecedented military might. Yet the trust was shattered. Iran withdrew diplomats and shut airspace ahead of potential future rounds. Israel vowed continuation of strike until nuclear threats were neutralized. In the end, the Iran-Israel war reached its breaking point when Iran launched a devastating wave of ballistic missile strikes deep into Israel territory, crippling key infrastructure and military installations. The scale of this destruction and loss shocked even Israel's staunchest allies. Faced with mounting casualties and the risk of regional escalation spiraling into a global war, the United States stepped in. Through intense back-channel diplomacy and military pressure, Washington forced both sides to the negotiating table. The result was an uneasy but urgent ceasefire, not born from mutual understanding but from necessity. The war ended with not a clear victor, but with a fragile pause, leaving behind a volatile silence and a Middle East more uncertain than ever.